After over a year of working on this setup, it was finally time to do what I thought was going to be the last step, or at least one of the final steps, but of course, things don't go as planned most of the time. At least that's been my experience so far. I'd been planning on doing this for a while, but finally it was time for me to put a valance above my setup, and I'd have some lighting coming down from behind it to light up my shelving and the desk, and also a backboard that I would put up and it would hold my art. And it's been a long time since I made art, so I'm going to use this as an excuse to make some new drawings and stuff, which I'm excited about. I don't know if anybody else cares about my drawings. Anyways, I ordered these long pre-primed pieces of MDF from Home Depot. They showed up pretty scuffed, so I had to paint them again. I decided not to add Varathane this time because they're not going to be touched often like the desk is. I know, relatable, right? And I also didn't want them to be too reflective or glossy because there's going to be light shining directly on them most of the time. First cut that I made to the valance left it a little bit too long, which was actually kind of interesting because when me and Alex were testing the piece and if it would fit, it had a bend in it, which actually looked pretty cool. We almost went with that, except the bend wouldn't have been centered in the room because of the area in the ceiling where the vent is concealed. So the peak farthest out from the wall would have been off to the right. So I went back out and made another cut. We brought it back in and we got it to fit perfectly next try. Once we knew the piece was going to fit, we brought it back down. I attached some brackets to it first, then we brought it back up to mark the spots where we would pre-drill the holes in the ceiling and on the walls. This is where things went south. No. First, the screws and the anchors used were completely ripped from the wall, so the drywall has basically exploded outwards where these holes were. And no, these anchors I didn't use because my hand was so tired after putting up the shelves, and I probably should have used them. Had to rip them out anyways. That means that I can't just put the shelf back up. It's no longer going to be supportable in those areas where the screws were ripped out. So this leaves me with a couple of different options. Either I reuse the same shelves by taking off the brackets and making them a little bit wider, which I would have to do to each shelf in order to make it even across the wall, otherwise it wouldn't be symmetrical. Or I take this as an opportunity to make the setup even better than it would have otherwise been, and I think that's the best way to go with this. I can design a completely new shelf, and once the valance is fully installed, I'll have an easier time visualizing what that new shelving might be in the full context of the completed setup. I have to say, considering that all of these things were sinking in for us as we continued to work and hang up the valance, we took this extremely well.
This means I have some extra work to do. Yep.
Even when it happened a second time.
It's okay. It's okay. Are you Yep, it's okay. We gotta make the brackets wider anyways.
Yeah.
So everything needs to be patched no matter what.
Okay. Apparently those were not in there that well.
So far, so good.
In fact, I think after it happened that second time, I felt a little bit better because we were in it together. It just turned out to be kind of funny at this point because it was like we were just so fucked that it was like, I think at a certain point when you're just that deeply fucked, there's nothing left for you. There's no room for anything except for acceptance and to laugh it off. We couldn't do anything else, but we ended up having a great time, I think, and we didn't lose momentum. We continued to work on what we set out to do, and we finished the job on that day. We put up the valance, and it actually looked amazing. It was kind of a bittersweet moment. You'll see the footage of us continuing to finish the valance as I talk about this, but it just goes to show that surrounding yourself with the right people can really make the difference of how the day pans out. And if you can bounce off each other the right kind of energy and the right ideas, like I said, I'm excited now to design shelving that's going to look even better than it was before. And I got to that headspace within about 5 minutes of the shelves crashing off of the wall. So again, I got to appreciate Alex more than I can say. So that about sums it up. Now, to avoid having this happen to you, there's obviously a couple things you could do. You could use more anchors, which is what I should have done. You could also put the brackets in front of studs. There just happens to not be very many studs in this wall. Or you could build from the top down, which is probably what I also should have done. That way you don't run the risk of leaning on anything and knocking it over, and you also don't have a bunch of crap in the way when you're trying to install things above the setup. I had a really hard time committing to what I actually wanted to put above the setup, so that's kind of why I didn't do it in that order. But anyways, it is what it is. I'm here now, and we're gonna make some new shelves. Now, honestly, I was planning on making this the last video that I would make on this channel for a while, but because the shelving crashed, I am going to make another video about designing that, and then I'm going to have another video about putting up the backboards separately, because I want some time to just kind of absorb what it's really going to look like, and I want to be careful with this. If you want to see me make even more videos, then subscribing does help. I work really hard on the channel, and every single time I see someone subscribe or leave a comment, it does make an impact. And there's times when I've given up and then I read something that one of you guys have said, and it makes me continue and go and edit that next video or take that next shot or whatever it is. So I really appreciate you guys. I want to thank you guys for watching, subscribing, liking, commenting. I know the wall looks like shit right now. I did my best to patch it up, but I'm going to have to figure out a better way to do that. And I'm probably just going to repaint the entire wall too. Fuck it. Anyways, thanks again for watching, and I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one.